spiritual leaders to share things, so I enjoy. I'll share with you also.
Thank you. Okay. Now, okay, we'll start.
Yeah.
I don't have the first slide. It hasn't shown up yet. Okay. Can you see it now?
Yes, yeah, I can see. Yeah.
Okay. Welcome to Raising Happy Kids Zoom Show, Episode 5, Homeschooling Today, Kids Doing What is Important. What I consider is important for kids to be doing is what they believe is important for them to be doing. You'll see this in our 2 examples today. During this 1-hour Zoom show, I focus on sharing tips and lessons on the 1 rule to raising happy kids. Each episode has at least 1 example of the 1 rule in action, demonstrating how it helps you raise a happy child. Then we have Q&A and discussion. When I talk about raising happy kids or creating harmony with kids, I bring up the 1 rule. The 1 rule equals agreement. Agreement equals harmony. Using the 1 rule means you find agreement. That's the rule. You find an idea, a solution that everyone likes. You've found agreement. You've found harmony. Knowing and following the 1 rule is all you really need to create harmony between you and your kids. In any situation where there are differences that might lead to conflict between you and your kids, use the 1 rule. I learned this strategy from 3-year-old children. I was teaching them a complex conflict resolution strategy, actually intended for adults, and they taught me this. So don't think you're in for a rough time. It's simple, it's easy, it's powerful and effective. It works if you use it. Today's examples of the 1 rule in action are from my original book, Parenting for the New Millennium, Creating Friendly Families Through the Power of Respect. I've added the term the 1 to what I originally wrote. Otherwise, the stories are the same. Keeping harmony with the 1 rule is a little different when children are in the developmental period, commonly called the terrible 2s. During this time, they are primarily focused on developing their willpower and must practice wanting. Adults have 2 choices to keep harmony with a 2-year-old who is practicing wanting. 1, figure out how to agree with the child's choice. Or 2, shift the child's focus before they become determined to have what they have chosen to want. Then you can keep harmony. The following example of the 1 rule in action shows how using the 1 rule eliminates all the wondering and confusion about how to solve potential problems. Without the guidance of the 1 rule and how to use it with 2-year-olds, Imagine how many points in this example could turn into disasters. But now you know how to keep harmony. You just have to do it. He wants to dress himself. Miriam has always chosen Leland's clothes and helped him get dressed. It has never been a problem, unless he wasn't ready to be dressed. Today, when she entered his room, she found clothes all over the floor with Leland sitting in the middle of them. He had underpants on, backwards. He has one blue sock on and one red sock on. He was trying to put on some pants. Can I help you, Leland? No. Miriam stands in the door, watching. She knows that it is important to let him do as much for himself as he wants. I have to go into the office today. My boss is having a meeting and grandmother is waiting for you. Would you like me to put your clothes in their drawers? No, I do. Well, I came to help you get dressed. Breakfast is ready. We have to go very soon. I dressing. You go. All right, I'll go for now, but I'll be back soon. She knows how important it is for her son as a 2-year-old to persevere to success with anything he has chosen, if at all possible. She also knows that her part in using the one rule with 2-year-olds is to decide how to agree with him once he is persevering, since she did not stop him when he first thought of choosing that activity. She figures out that he can continue with what he has started. There is probably time for him to get dressed. But if he wants to put his clothes back in the drawers, that will have to wait until later. If he takes too long, he will have to have breakfast at his grandmother's. When Miriam returns, Leland has put his pants on, but has not been able to fasten them. He is trying to figure out the t-shirt. Leland, may I show you how to fasten your pants? Yes, you show. Miriam shows him clearly and precisely how to fasten the hook and how to pull up the zipper. Would you like me to show you how to put your shirt on? I can show you which hole your head fits in. Yes, he hands her the t-shirt. Miriam holds the t-shirt up against herself so that he can see its shape clearly. Pointing, she says, "This hole is for your head." Then she scrunches up the shirt so that he has easy access to the neck hole. She hands it to him. I do. He puts his head through the hole and pulls down the t-shirt. Now you go. After a few minutes, Leland comes beaming into the kitchen, shirt on backwards but fully dressed, except for shoes, and ready for breakfast. There is still time for breakfast, but Miriam realizes that she is now going to have to figure time for his self-dressing into her time schedule. She decides not to mention the backwards shirt. He is too happy with his accomplishment, and she doesn't want to take a chance of spoiling it for him. She must remember to tell her mother not to mention that his dressing efforts are not perfect. Next time, she can show him how to make sure the front is in the front. After breakfast, Leland, we have to go so I won't be late. When we get home, I'll clean up the kitchen and you can put away your clothes. But now we have to go. Do you want to get your shoes? Yes, I get. Miriam finds it very exciting to watch Leland's changes, very challenging to keep the one rule in mind, seeing if she can agree with his choices and maintain harmony, and very rewarding altogether. Our second example today concerns trouble a student is having with his teacher. Now that schools are starting up again, please make sure that your kids are spending time doing what they agree to doing. Remember the importance of following their interests. Think about doing something you want to do, you are interested in doing. This is where you are going to find satisfaction and excellence. You've heard the saying that two heads are better than one, right? With the one rule, all the heads of the people involved are part of coming up with a solution. Since all involved are invested in the outcome, the chances that a mutually satisfying solution will be thought of are greatly improved. If one person, like the mom, dad, or teacher, is the only one thinking of and deciding what is to happen, chances are good that not everyone is going to be as satisfied with the decision as if everyone involved gets to be part of making the decision. However, all the heads includes the parents and even the teacher, unless you all decide to go with unschooling. If you and your kids decide to go with following the school curriculum, either at home if the school is not open, or at school if it is, make sure that agreement is an active part of your daily interactions. Trouble with teachers. I hate my teacher. You're having some problem with him? He says that I have to finish my report, he says that until I finish my report, I have to stay in during lunch recess. That's the only part of school that I like. I hate him. I can understand why you're upset. It seems like he's punishing you because you have not finished the work he assigned. He is punishing me. He didn't make Rachel stay in, and she's not done either. Rachel's not done either, but she gets to go out at lunch. Well, she's almost done, and she said she'd finish it tonight. But you have too much to do to finish tonight? Yeah, but I hate writing that dumb report. You have to write about something you don't like. No, I like the subject. I'm writing about Kodiak bears. I like reading about them. I just hate writing reports. I understand. I wonder what can be done about it. I don't like you to miss lunch recess either. Would you like me to talk with your teacher? I already did. He said everyone's report is due tomorrow, and by having me stay in during lunch recess, he's giving me extra time to finish. I guess I shouldn't have spent my time drawing and writing a story about a mountain man making friends with a Kodiak bear cub. If I'd just done the report, I would have been done on time. I guess I got distracted. At least that's what Mr. Jensen said. Ryan, do you have your picture and story here? I'd really like to see them. Yeah, I brought all my report stuff home. I thought if I work on it tonight, I won't have to spend so many recesses in class. Ryan, I think this picture is great. See, it even shows that its habitat. This story is wonderful. I've learned a lot about the Kodiak just by reading it, and it's interesting too. Yeah, reports are so boring. Ryan, did you show these to Mr. Jensen? Yeah, that's when he said I was getting distracted. Did he read the story? Yeah, he said I could turn them in with my report for extra credit. He said they were good, but that I have to learn to follow directions and not get so easily distracted on my own projects. He said I can do my own projects at home. He said at school I need to work on what he assigns. He said he knows best how to prepare me for junior high and high school. Holly is really upset with this attitude on the part of the teacher. She believes that Ryan has done excellent work, and even though it does not meet the form the teacher assigned, she believes it covers all the material more than adequately. She wants her son to be able to continue to develop his drawing and creative, informative writing. She does not want him to waste his time writing reports, which to him are boring, and to learn to hate learning. Ryan, if it's okay with Mr. Jensen, let's see if we can't come to some agreement about the type of work you do in class. If he isn't cooperative, then I'd like to visit the other 5th grade class and see if that teacher might be better for you than Mr. Jensen. It seems to me that he might not be the best teacher for you. The only other teacher is Miss Higson. I'm really glad I didn't get her class. All the kids say she is totally mean. And I'm afraid that if you talk to Mr. Jensen, he'll be even harder on me than he has been. Ryan, if Mr. Jensen is not as helpful as I would like him to be, then I would like to talk to you about unschooling. Have you ever heard of unschooling? No? It's where you do your studies at home and places other than school. You might have to study some state-required subjects, but you can study them in your own way. You can study them when you want to, and you can study whatever else interests you. It seems to me that what you learned about the Kodiak and the way you have shared what you learned is at least as good as a report, and for you, it's better. It's not good to spend your time doing things you hate. It just makes the world a more unhappy place rather than a happier one. When would I get to be with my friends? You could be with them after school, on weekends, and during holidays. I'd miss lunch recess, and I'd miss having class with Jeremy. Maybe he'd like to do unschooling too. If it's necessary, I'll talk with Jeremy's mother. She'll probably agree to this if he wants to do it. It's a good thing I have a teaching credential. That would make things easier with the school officials. But first, I'm going to talk with Mr. Jensen. If we can work things out with him, then you can still go to school with all your friends and have fun with them at lunch recess. Even if Mr. Jensen is pleasant to me, Ryan, you have to let me know how things go in the classroom, whether you're happy there, okay? But what about the report that's due tomorrow? I'll call Mr. Jensen right now and try to get an appointment with him this afternoon. You just plan to turn in your story and the picture. I'll make sure that it's okay one way or another, even if I have to go with you in the morning, if he can't see me today. Okay, Mom, I hope this works. One of the aspects of the one rule that I like best is that although the outcome is always the same, Everyone agrees with the solution because they like it. But all the other details of the solution can vary depending on what matters, what is important to the people involved. If it mattered to Ryan that he go to school no matter what they decide would be different. If it mattered to his mom that he attend school, what they decide would be different. If they knew that Jeremy's mom would never allow Jeremy to try unschooling, what they decide might be different. If they had been planning to move anyway, and this would just speed up the process, what they decide would be different. The one thing that would not be different is the final outcome, the agreement. No matter what, the people involved in the decision would agree with the solution because they like it. That's the rule. Thanks for being here. Now it's time for Q&A and discussion. Hi, Sera.
Hi there.
Hi.
Hi, Sera.
Hi, Batool.
Hi.
Okay.
So,
That's very good. Couple of things. It was nice to hear about the 2-year-olds. And then again, you know, the situation that parents have with the teaching. You know, that's another level with the third party involved, you know, the school system.
right.
Yeah.
I was hearing the discussion, and the story which you were reading is quite interesting. And you know, it gives channels to some different questions, even. What
Yes.
I was observing, that in a way, when a mother is saying to the child that you don't need to do this project, you know, like you don't like this report. So there are two aspects of this. One is whether she's trying to convince the boy that I know it's not important, but you have to do this. There should be something, because sometimes, you know, we have to tell the children, even though they don't like something, but that's a part. They have to go through it. They have to understand it. For example, because you cannot achieve anything without suffering or working hard. And sometimes, you know, we need to go through it. For example, if a school assignment is there, that is something which is a part of the class. What I believe is that we cannot skip that. If the teacher has decided to give something, yes, there is a way in which the child, like the mother was saying, to speak to the child, the teacher. So I believe the child should go and talk to the teacher that my interest is more in this area, and I would love to have a report related to this thing. If you are getting a report topic, so why not the teacher then, you know, look at the interest of the child and motivate the child, or the mother should go and talk to the teacher about it. That see, these are the good areas of my son that he enjoys. What I have noticed, that it's hard, because mostly times what as a teacher also I hear something is that my child easily get distracted. Don't make my child sit with that student, you know, or my child, oh, I am sorry, my child easily get distracted. Obviously every child easily get distracted, because children, they are curious to hear going around their surrounding. The guys,
I, I, whoa.
certain areas will be there which I might not, you know, grab my interest, but it is important to have the knowledge of it. But I believe that yes, if teachers are giving students something, so there can be a plan. If the mother is thinking that the child is not doing the homework, it's an alarming thing for her. So she could have a meeting with the teacher and discuss about it. Maybe the child has not understood well, is not able to do himself. One aspect, other aspect, maybe the child likes to do it in a different way. So will the teacher allow the child to do it in his way? Will he or she accept it? So I think, avoiding, and another important thing, Miss Karen, what I tell the mothers, even because whomever I teach overseas also, I tell them, sometimes they tell me that I don't want to send my children to school, I just want to continue with you like a homeschooling. So I tell them, I discourage this, because class and learning is a very important part. They go, they sit with students, they talk, a certain time in which they are into a world where there are different types of children they are dealing with. They learn to fight, they learn to spend, they learn to play, they learn to share, which they cannot do it at home. So, when teacher is explaining, so everyone is listening. So schooling is a very important part of a child. And yes, at home you can call the student friends at home and they can enjoy, but I believe that part will be missed. I'm a grown up lady now, but still I love and I miss the time of my school. I missed all those things which I did in my school with my friends. And I remember my teachers. And sometimes, because teachers are strict also, teachers are very polite also. And I always remember. So these are all part of the learning. They deal with the thing. They start learning. Sometimes the teachers explain in a way which parents cannot. And this is my own personal, which I'm sharing with you. So this is a very well written story which you have written, and it can, thinking to many areas. How the agreement has reached between the mother and the teacher now. What's the solution? What happened later? Like coming in my mind, like for example, when the mother met the teacher. So is the mother, the question mark, is the mother trying to tell the son that the homework is not too important right now? Or maybe she can handle? Because, eventually a child, him or herself, has to face the thing for the class. He have to develop like respect of the teacher. If she or he has given a homework, it might be a part of their learning. For example, if you're teaching plants and you ask the children to grow a plant, it's a kind of a practical task. Some teachers might find it very boring, that just wait for weeks and see how the plant, the seed germinates and all. And some might find it interesting. But in the end, when the result comes out, they will be excited to see. So if the child does not submit the report code and every other child is submitting, and when the results is when teacher is praising the other subjects, at that time the child will be feeling bad, thinking I should also have taken part in it. Because it's something done along within a class. It's not an individual activity. It's a group. At class, a teacher is assigning work. And whatever he or she likes to do, that is something very different, which the mother always is a teacher. And the teacher can have some problem in studies with it, so she can use those areas or those things as a tricks to help the child to motivate. What do you think, Miss Karen?
Mm.
Sarah, what do you think?
Yeah, I really like what you brought up. Because, I just want to finish writing that because it's a really, really thinking about what is the development between the exam. That 2-year-old that's dressing himself. If he was growing up with the, would he have a better ability to think about the concern? I don't know exactly where the freedom stops and where the self-discipline starts. Self-control, like you're saying, that he has to understand that the teacher is there for his benefit. They are doing a group lesson and that he will gain something from that. He has to have confidence. that by following that teacher's method or directions, that is something that, so there's a balance, I think, between the creativity of the child and the expectations of the world, the conformity that's there in business or in civil society. We walk on the right side of the sidewalk and people coming at us go to our left normally in America. Those kinds of, and then, you know, of course there's people who go anywhere they want, but there's a certain conformity, there's politeness, there's those kinds of things. So that's what I was writing, is that I could see how the mother was concerned to not stifle the child's love of learning, that creativity excites the children to learn more, to foster that original curiosity the children have. It's really great to be able to break it down as far as the 2-year-olds. They have to practice wanting, that kind of thing. So I think there's a lot to be gained by understanding different stages of development. But like you said, Batool, that if the parents, you know, it's a lot of discipline for themselves to be patient. Like she said, she was committed to that harmony as far as the 2-year-old dressing himself in, you know, the funny way. But at the same time, the children are children. So even though they make an agreement, they might not follow through on it. You know, so I appreciated that part about checking on the kids if they're doing what they agreed to be doing, you know. Yeah, so Karen, maybe you could talk about how that really works out in your experience, how that worked out with the 3-year-olds or the other
Right.
kids that you had in the system.
Well, my understanding of 2-year-olds is that they are not really developed enough to be able to make the agreements. The agreement part has to come more on the part of the adult, and that was either figuring out how they could agree with what was going on, which is what that mother did, or if she noticed when he was first figuring out that he was going to choose this in the early stages, then you can shift easily. You can shift the attention because they haven't gotten to the stage of wanting, where they are determined, where they're practicing persevering. If you get into that stage, then you're in for trouble and a fight, and harmony is gone out the window. So if you want to shift what they're doing and keep harmony, then you have to shift it before they get into that determined stage. And I know, you know, this is not something that can happen every time and all of that. But in general, if that can be your general goal, if you want to keep harmony, then when they are just either looking around for something to want, or they have just chosen it, but they're not like invested in it, then that's the time when you can shift them to something that you like, that you agree with, and they will too. They're pretty open to, because their main thing is practicing wanting. Another thing though is coordinating their intelligence, their wanting, and their physical movements so that they work as a whole, as a unit. So if you want them to do something else, if it can be something they really like, daily life activities a lot, and because it fits into that category. It's something that makes sense to their intelligence, and it's something they can use their willpower, the different aspects of their willpower, they can use that, and it involves their physical coordination, which is also, it's a big part of what they're doing too. So anyway, which is.
So how do you think that child, you know, given that development, would that child at 5th grade, because I feel sometimes the examples are almost, I mean, they're very helpful for people, the reader, to see that agreement rule in action at a certain time in a certain setting. But it doesn't say whether that child is new to that agreement rule. It seems like the reader is new to the agreement rule. So in those different settings, that agreement rule is somewhat new. So the mother is showing, or the example is showing, how the mother is implementing that agreement rule in that moment. But it doesn't, because that's, I think, very helpful to the reader. But I was trying to think, like, during that explanation of the report and the teacher's
Right.
possible reaction or options, you know, given there was an undesirable reaction, would the child, you know, had that child known the agreement rule for those, you know, 10 years, or not 10 years, but 8 years, or between a 2-year-old and a 5th grader, in your idea, would he even have that situation? Would he even be worried about would he know maybe how to handle that situation in a different way as far as doing the report? If he had been consistently understanding, like what you're saying, 2 years old, they don't know how to make
Right.
an agreement.
I would
When 4
say.
years old, they can break a deal, you know, okay, can we make a deal here, you know? When they're 4 or 5, you know, they
Right.
learn to barter, they learn to share. So by the time they get to 5th grade, would they really have that situation? Or is that just an example of kind of introducing the agreement rule in that age group for parents with kids that age? Is it an introduction situation? Or
Well,
would that
that's interesting. No, it would have to be, I mean, it couldn't, they would not get themselves into that situation if they had been doing that since they were little. Yeah, I don't think so. I think that he might have talked to this mom a lot earlier.
He would know why he's in school, or I mean, he would have. Yeah.
Well, the thing is, it hasn't really been an option before. I mean, it was. I mean, there are lots of people now. I mean, even before this started, there are lots of people who do homeschooling for different reasons. There are some people who do unschooling for whatever their reasons are. I guess to me, it's okay, because the one rule with the one rule, the different people involved come to an agreement. That's the rule, that you come to an agreement that is agreeable, not just like, oh, well, I'll do it, but agreement that is agreeable. And so I would say that a child or a young person who's in the 5th grade and had been using that approach would have a clear sense of themselves and what's important to them, and maybe would have worked something out with the teacher, something, hopefully, because the thing is, for the one rule to work, the people have to be agreeable to doing it. The teacher may not have been agreeable, but if he were, then they maybe could have worked out something which, if he had if Ryan had shared his, like, this inspiration of this story and the drawing with the teacher, there something could have been worked out in advance in terms of maybe the teacher could have shown him how to make, on the side, how to make a report using the inspired in the inspiration that was coming to Ryan as he got into the studying about the Kodiak bear. I would say he probably would have done that if that had been his, if he had had this as part of his life, the one rule, if he'd had it as part of his life.
And also, I mean, I just want to interject there.
Yeah.
I could kind of see that if the teacher had been prepped about this
had been
tradition
what?
that they had, you know, that it's not like a prepared. If the teacher had been introduced or prepared about this kind of method that the family was accustomed to using, you know, it's not an ironclad rule. We relate with all kinds of situations, but whenever possible, we're actually really advocating that this kind of, you know, support for creativity or support for his own character, his personality, you know, that we're really parenting in this type of manner so that the teacher can be aware of it, and then maybe he would be able to say very easily, well, you know, this is practically a report, what you've just written. All you have to do is tweak it like this and tweak it like that. And all these requirements that I've already told you, that's basically what you've just done, you know. But this might look really formal and stiff and boring, but what you've done is you've given all this information, you know. But again, it's like, where does like that development come in, where we could actually say to teachers, like in a preschool environment, it's a lot easier to talk about different methods, you know. But then they get into elementary school, and maybe Batool, you know a lot about this, as far as, you know, we kind of tend to need to prepare them for what the society is really like, and not necessarily to, you know, chip away at any kind of positivity. Like you said, don't spend time doing things you don't like, you know, as far as finding some things that you do like, and maybe some things that you don't, you can still, you know, give those some effort, but not as far as your heart is concerned, that that is something that you need to do with most of your time. Because I was just telling my son, who graduated high school, that the experience in college is actually really different, just for the simple fact that everybody who's there wants to be there. They've chosen to go to college, and that many of them have worked really hard to figure it out, at least getting through the application process, getting through the financial aid process, getting through the car or whatever they need to actually get to the college. You know, even if it's a community college, they're not there because they have to be there. You know, maybe their parents or their families really encouraging them or supporting them to go, but the experience is different because it's not mandatory. It's not something that they're really forced into, like when they're younger, like high school. I've got to be here. I've got to graduate. You know, no matter what. It's so boring. I'm dying. Every day I have to come and I have to sit and I have to get through these teachers and stuff. But when you can decide where you're going and what you want to apply yourself to, it's a different story. So why can't we treat the younger children like college students?
Exactly.
You know, why can't that be there? You know,
That's what I want. Because to me, when you are doing something that you are inspired to do, and children are inspired beings as far as I'm concerned, such excellence is going to come out of that compared to dreary, drudging, um, it doing
reluctance, self-hatred, low
things.
self-esteem.
Yeah, exactly. All of those things come out of that. They feel
Inadequate and all that.
yeah, 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 it does. Um, so that's, I guess, part of the whole one rule thing is um, because maybe there's information that the adults have, there are needs that the adults have, and they need to be figured in as importantly as the children, but the children need to be figured in as importantly as the adults. And that way we can each do what's best for us and yet work together in a harmonious fashion. I've thought a lot about my own children during all this process, and how it was once I decided never to force them to do what they didn't want to do, and I firmly stuck to that for the rest of, I mean, I'm still sticking to it. So anyway, harmony is what happened, even though I didn't have the concept of the one rule, but that's how we lived. And I wasn't an excluded part of it. I was part of it. I didn't do things that I didn't want to do. I didn't agree to situations that didn't feel good to me. And yet everything worked that way with them. Yes, with them.
Did you experience that with your students at school too?
Yes, yes. There was it happened a little differently there. There was one day, this little girl, she was a 3-year-old, and she came into the school, and this little boy who was just a delightful little boy, kind and friendly, you know, like he has a lot of good quality. All of a sudden he hit her, And it was like, whoa, that is strange. I mean, she came in and he hit her. That was the first thing. And she just started crying and crying and crying. And I realized that she had all this pain from her family situation that she needed to release. And that day, I was like super respectful to her, like extreme. And I just started doing more of that and more of that. And well, just doing it with her that day, she just blossomed and was feeling good all day and busy. But I kept doing it, as I was saying, I did it more and more with the other students. So it kind of grew there. And yeah, so it didn't start out that way.
Did you find out why the boy hit her?
I think it was that she had all this pain in her from the morning and hadn't released it. One thing I've learned from children and from myself is tears are releasing, they release pain. They kind of erase it. So that's the only thing I could figure, because that was not normal behavior on his part. And it happened like she didn't do anything. She just came
Not
in.
provoked at all.
No, not at all.
How interesting.
Yeah. So I just figure there was that something in him noticed. It just was like almost like beyond both of them that he did this. It was, anyway, that's the only thing I ever figured out about it. So, and I didn't ask him, I didn't talk to her. I knew her home situation was pretty rough, but anyway.
Right.
So I remember one time, one of the mothers who she had a background of working with kids in some way. I don't remember right this second how it was, but she felt that it was important for kids to, if they had weaknesses, to strengthen them. And I mean, to me, that sounds logical. But I guess for me, what I would like to see is whatever strengths children have, those get the primary focus of development. Doesn't mean that you don't build up others if that, like if you feel inspired. I guess inspiration to me is primary, and I wouldn't want to do anything that goes against that for anybody. Are you guys frozen? Oh my goodness.